California has, in 2003, had a recall of Gray Davis, who is deeply unpopular. And the Republicans rallied behind Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was already familiar to voters there, was not an intimidating soul to the left, because he was perceived as a moderate Republican. Republicans knew he was a Second Amendment supporting California Republican. They were happy to have a Republican, and Schwarzenegger won and was popular governor. Definitely moved left as he became governor, alienated some Republicans, but he was able to be a Republican governor in California. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California after the lockdowns and the fires and the power outages and the like. Enough signatures were collected to have a recall of the governor, and it moves forward. Larry Elder, the conservative radio show host, a number of people called in or asked me online weeks ago, did I think Larry Elder had a shot? I said, I don't really think so. Kevin Falconer probably has the best shot because Kevin Falconer has really, the Republican Party is technically keeping hands off, but behind the scenes, they're pretty much helping Falconer. They think he's the best shot. So he's got a ground organization to help him that Elder does not. But there is polling that has come out that not only shows it's going to be very, very close on the issue of the recall, but also that among the people who are doing best, Larry Elder, in part because of his name ID, is doing best. And so he has a potential shot. He's only at like 18%, but it would be possible. Now, there are a couple of things to tell you. The Los Angeles Times polling has come out. And the Los Angeles Times polling has yes at 47% and no at 50%. Emerson polling, which is actually a pretty terrible pollster, has yes at 46% and no at 48%. And KABC and Survey USA have a poll that has yes at 51 and no at 40, an 11 percentage point lead. Now, the result of this is that the yes, remove Gavin Newsom line is now ahead in the polling average by 2%. In the LA Times Berkeley IGS poll, which probably was the most detailed poll, 3,266 likely voters spread out in a compact amount of time, no was ahead by 3 percentage points. So if you take the Berkeley poll, the Berkeley LA Times poll, then Gavin Newsom would win. Essentially, here's what happens. Voters are going to be asked two questions. Should Gavin Newsom be recalled, yes or no? If they say no, that's the end of their ballot. If they say yes, they immediately then go to the next question of who should replace him. And it is a daunting list of candidates. The following list contains the name and ballot designation and party preference of each person entitled to votes in the recall. Holly Beatty, John Drake, Patrick Kilpatrick, Jacqueline McGowan, Kevin Paffert, Armando Perez Serrato, Brandon Ross, Joel Ventressa, Daniel Watts, David Bramante, John Cox, Larry Elder, Kevin Falconer, Rhonda Furin, Ted Gaines, Sam Gallucci, David Hilberg, Caitlin Jenner, Kevin Kiley, Chauncey Kellens, Ginny LaRue, Steve Lodge, David Lorenzo, Diego Martinez, Daniel Mercury, Robert Newman III or the second, David Ossie, Sarah Stevens, Denver Stoner, Joe Simon, Anthony Tremino, Nicholas Wildstar, Leo Zaki, Heather Collins, Dan Kapolovitz, Jeff Hewitt, Angeline, no last name, David Hannick, Kevin Call, Michael Loeb, Dennis Lucy, Jeremiah Markinnick, David Moore, Adam Papagan, Dennis Richter, Major Singh. That's the list. And you got to navigate that. The divided between Democrats, Republicans, and no party preference. Oh, and Green Party and Libertarians. One Libertarian. Wouldn't it be funny if the Libertarian won? They'd finally win something. You got a long list to navigate through. That's why Larry Elder suddenly has a potential edge. He's got high name ID being a radio show host in California, and he's on Fox News a lot. Kevin Falconer, the base of the Republican Party out there appears to like him. But I want to focus on this piece by Sean Trinity because the Democrats have done something that actually works to their disadvantage. First of all, California, you should know, is far bluer than it was in 2003 in the Gray Davis race. Gray Davis was not only way more unpopular than Gavin Newsom is now, but California was leaned a little more Republican than it does now. So that's strike one against the recall happening. Strike two is the Republicans don't have someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger that they all rally behind. They're deeply divided. You got John Cox, you got Kevin Falconer, you've got Larry Elder. But there are some things you need to consider now. And we shouldn't be dismissive of the recall, particularly if the polling is that close. There could be, as Sean Trinity points out, there could be a Brexit effect. You know, in Brexit, all of the polling suggested it was close, but not going to happen. And part of that was a lot of people said it wasn't going to happen or that they didn't support it because they just assumed it wasn't going to happen. Even if they were going to support say yes, they assumed it wasn't going to happen. So they told posters no. Or they were scared or shy. They didn't want to admit that they supported Brexit because there was a deep campaign that if you supported it, you were somehow racist. In the same way with Donald Trump in 2016, a lot of people went into the polling and voted yes for Trump who told posters they were opposed to him. It's a pretty significant thing. So that could be happening with the recall. And now the Democrats in California have done something. They've decided to make it mail-in. Everybody's going to get a ballot. COVID regulations, spreading to COVID, the Secretary of State's decided that everybody's going to get a ballot now. So it's not just you got to actually take the time to get out of your house and go to the polls. No, you're going to get a mail-in ballot. Everybody is. Sean Trinity pointed to the Literary Digest presidential poll of 1936. Now, some history here. The Literary Digest was kind of like the Reader's Digest of its day. It was a general interest magazine. It started in 1890, and it spread across America. In the 1920s, it had a lot of very famous paintings on the front page, and it was basically everyone read it. And in 1916, the Literary Digest started publishing polls to figure out who should be president of the United States. And guess what? The poll was always right. In each of the elections, the poll for the Literary Digest predicted the outcome. And then 1936 happened. In 1936, Alf Landon of Kansas was the winner of the poll, overwhelmingly so. And then FDR won 46 states. And it turned out that the Literary Digest was not looking at the right people. Literary Digest, in fact, was looking at well-to-do, educated Americans who read the Literary Digest, not looking at the run-of-the-mill factory workers in America who were sick and tired of what was going on in the country in the Great Depression. That was the year, 1936, by the way, that George Gallup began his polling and got it right and was able to reproduce the Literary Digest results by showing that if you only sampled the rich white folks of America, you would have gotten Alf Landon. The Literary Digest went out of business shortly thereafter. Its credibility was destroyed. And that's very much something that Sean Trinity in his piece in Real Clear Politics focuses on. They're mailing everybody. They're mailing everybody. The people who are most invested in the recall are the people who hate Gavin Newsom. They're going to be the ones who are most likely to send the ballot back. Newsom's supporters may think, well, it's never going to happen. Let's not worry about it. Or they may say, the recall, such a dumb idea. They throw the ballot away. But it's the pissed off Republicans who are going to matter. And they could boot Gavin Newsom out because they're the ones most engaged. And then Sean Trinity points this out, and I just want to read this one to you. Any dispassionate analysis of the recall campaign must acknowledge that Gavin Newsom has problems. The Emerson College poll has his job approval at 48%, which, while not radioactive, puts him in a danger zone. The state is in the midst of an uptick in COVID cases, and some locales are reissuing mask mandates. That might combine with stories of Gavin Newsom's own children going maskless at summer camp and him hosting a dinner party at a time when Americans were being urged to skip holiday gatherings to create a plausible narrative of elite indifference to the plight of everyday Americans. The state remains vulnerable to blackouts, which was a hardship that hurt Gray Davis in 2003. In other words, the election increasingly does look like a real toss-up. Taking that, Newsom is still favored. Neither he nor President Biden is unpopular enough to lose, but against this analysis, the specter of Brexit looms large. The possibility of Governor Larry Elder seems so wildly implausible that it's difficult to call it as the likely outcome unless all evidence points in that direction. For now, though, the possibility is far more plausible that the recall succeeds than it was a few months ago. And he's right. When the California Secretary of State decided they were going to send mail-in ballots to everyone, that right there started throwing this thing away from Gavin Newsom, and his team knows it. And they're scrambling now to organize a ground game to go to people and try to get them to make sure they mail in their ballot. And he's got a problem. COVID is spreading. In the San Francisco and the Los Angeles areas, COVID is spreading again pretty rapidly. In Los Angeles, the local hospital system is beginning to get overwhelmed with COVID patients due to the Delta variant, and they're all vaccinated, or a lot of them are. The Hispanic migrant worker underclass is not, and they tend to be the bulk of the problems in hospitals in Los Angeles now. So Newsom actually has real trouble. And a mail-in ballot, the people who are most fired up are the ones who are going to use it, and those are the people who want the recall. And Larry Elder has higher name ID than Kevin Falconer right now, and the person with the highest name ID tends to win. So if it goes to a yes, recall him, people are going to seek out the name they recognize, and if it's Larry Elder, he becomes governor of California. Larry Elder has a real shot at becoming governor of California. Kevin Falconer does too, but Elder's got higher name ID. The advantage is still to Newsom. The advantage is still against a recall. People like the status quo, and California Democrats are dominant in the state. They outnumber Republicans significantly. So most likely it's a no. But there is a real possibility at this moment, more than there was a few months ago, that they actually get to yes in California, and you have the second governor recalled in California in less than 20 years. And it'll be because of Gavin Newsom telling people what to do about the virus and refusing to take his own advice. People rebelling against the elite, even in California, that can happen.